Have you ever felt the burning urge to defeat someone not with words, not with noise, but with silence, so sharp it cuts deeper than any accusation? Tell me, spirit free, do you want to outsmart the people around you, not by speaking, but by transforming your very presence into a silent battlefield where you always emerge victorious? You think cleverness is a matter of quick wit, of verbal mastery, of clever retorts that leave your opponent speechless. No, that's the folly of the herd. True superiority is forged in silence, in the refusal to dance to the music of others. To outsmart someone without uttering a single word is the art of the strong. It is the mark of one who has seized power over himself, therefore over all who gaze upon him. I know why you crave this power. Because you have tasted humiliation. Because there was a day you left a conversation feeling small, invisible, dominated. You bit your tongue, swallowed your rage, rehearsed in your mind all the things you should have said. You tortured yourself with, if only. You want, once and for all, to stop being the one who trembles under the weight of someone else's opinions. You want to look into their eyes and watch them waver, while you remain unmoved. Good, you are ready for war. And I promise you this, silence is a weapon sharper than any sword, and more cunning than any lie. But beware, silence is not merely the absence of noise. Silence can be fear, cowardice, weakness disguised as virtue. The silence of the sheep who dare not bleat. The silence of the coward who trembles inside but hopes to escape notice. That is not the silence I speak of. The silence I speak of is the silence of the lion watching from the shadows. It is the silence of a spirit so full of power that words become unnecessary. It is the silence of one who knows he is a storm contained in human flesh. I must ask you, when you hold your tongue, is it because you have nothing to say, or because you are wise enough to know that saying it would only reveal your weakness? When you fall silent, is it because you're afraid of conflict, or because you wish to become a riddle no one can solve? Do you see the difference? Spirit-free. The herd uses silence to hide their fear. The overman uses silence to magnify his power. You wish to outsmart someone without speaking. Then first you must be able to remain in your own presence, undisturbed by your own thoughts. You must become opaque, impenetrable. For the weak man, silence is unbearable. He fills it with fidgets, with nervous laughter, with explanations. His silence leaks anxiety. But the powerful man allows silence to expand around him like a kingdom. He knows that words give others clues, weaknesses to exploit, openings to attack. He withholds his words as a ruler withholds his armies until the perfect moment. Consider how the world operates. People are addicted to signals. The way you shift your gaze, the twitch of your mouth, the tone of your voice all betray you if you are not master of yourself. People crave predictability. They want to know where you stand, how you feel, whether you're vulnerable. Because, if they know these things, they can manipulate you. They can shame you, seduce you, control you. Do you wish to become untouchable? Then give them nothing. No clues, no explanations. When they question you, answer only with a look that reveals nothing. When they insult you, smile as though you have seen the game and refuse to play it. When they demand your opinion, let silence be your fortress. The less you say, the more they wonder who you aren't, the more they fear what you might be capable of. Remember, spirit-free, people fear what they do not understand. Mystery is power. The herd imagines that power belongs to those who speak, the loudest, who argue best, who win the crowd. But the crowd is a pack of frightened animals. Their applause is worthless. It is fleeting. It is the drug of the insecure. I have seen philosophers and politicians intoxicated with the love of the crowd, only to crumble the moment the crowd turned against them. They are slaves to the herd's whims, not you. You will not be a slave. You will speak with your silence, which is the most devastating form of speech. For silence forces the other to look inward, and most people cannot bear what they find inside themselves. Let me tell you this. There is no weapon more merciless than the gaze of a silent man. He forces the other to hear his own thoughts echoing in the void, and for most, their thoughts are a cesspool of insecurity, regret, shame. They try to fill the silence with chatter, with laughter, with accusations, anything to avoid the unbearable sound of their own inner emptiness. And the more they speak, the more you have already won. Because to outsmart someone without saying a word is not merely to defeat him in a battle of wits. It is to force him to fight a battle against himself, and to lose. The man who can hold silence in the face of provocation is a man who has no fear of himself. He is a man who has burned away his own illusions, who has wrestled his own demons into submission. He is a man whose will is forged like steel. This is why the silent man is so dangerous, because he has nothing to prove, and a man who has nothing to prove cannot be controlled. Let me ask you, why do you wish to outsmart others? Is it for revenge? For petty satisfaction? Then you remain a slave to their opinions. But if you wish to master yourself, to become a fortress against the storms of the world, then your silence will become divine. I am not here to give you tricks, spirit-free. I am here to give you a new soul. You must become the kind of being who can live in silence because he is stronger than his own need to be understood. But beware, this path is lonely. Those who live by silence are misunderstood. People will call you cold, arrogant, heartless. They will resent you for the mystery you have become. They will try to provoke you, to lure words from your lips so they can pin you down, define you, control you. Let them try. Let them fail. Because true intelligence, true cunning, is not a matter of words. It is the art of remaining an enigma. So, I ask you, are you ready to become invisible and yet ever present? To strike with silence instead of with words? To live as a question mark that no one can answer? Then join me, spirit free, into the dangerous silence where power breathes, into the abyss where the herd fears to look, into yourself. So let us go further. Let us crack open the skull of this matter and peer inside. Why is it that silence is so devastating? Why does the herd quiver in the presence of a silent man? Because silence forces them to hear their own thoughts, and for most their thoughts are enemies. Human beings, spirit-free, are slaves to interpretation. They cannot endure ambiguity. They crave definition. To them, the unknown is a wound. They rush to bandage it with words, with labels, with certainty. They do not seek truth. They seek relief. When you refuse to speak, you deny them that relief. Your silence becomes a black mirror in which they see only themselves reflected. And most of them hate what they see. Do you think words are weapons? No, words are merely the echo of your inner state. And if that inner state is trembling, uncertain, enslaved to the need for validation, your words, no matter how clever, will betray you. I have said it before, and I shall say it again. Style is the man himself. Silence too is a style, but only when it rises from power. So let us examine the origin of this power. Where does the silent man draw his strength? It is not merely in the act of not speaking. That is superficial. True power is deeper. It is the refusal to be reactive. How the herd lives in reaction. Insults provoke defenses. Praise provokes vanity. Accusations provoke explanations. The herd is chained to every stimulus like a dog on a leash. A word, a gesture, a glance, and they leap, bark, whimper, obey. Do you wish to be free? Then you must sever this chain. You must become untouchable. A silent man is a man who has broken free from the compulsion to react. He does not explain himself. He does not defend himself. He does not justify his existence to those who have no right to judge him. He has understood what I have discovered, that to explain oneself is to kneel, that to justify oneself is to accept that the other has power over you, that every word you offer in defense is a confession of weakness. So I ask you, spirit free, why do you explain yourself? Why do you feel the urge to correct misunderstandings, to soothe suspicions, to clarify your intentions? Because you still fear exile from the herd, because you still crave approval, but you shall not become powerful until you embrace the possibility of standing utterly alone. Let me tell you a secret. The truly powerful man knows that misunderstanding is inevitable. He knows that the world will invent stories about him, that the weak will slander him, that the envious will twist his silence into arrogance, and he allows it, because he knows that nothing others say can touch who he truly is. He has become a fortress unto himself. Imagine this. Your enemy hurls accusations at you. You look into his eyes, and you say nothing. You do not flinch. You do not blink. You allow the silence to stretch like an abyss between you. And then, spirit-free, something strange happens. The words of your enemy start to echo back at him. He begins to question his own certainty. The silence begins to gnaw at his confidence. He wonders, why does he not defend himself? What does he know that I do not? Your silence has become a weapon more lethal than any argument, for it shifts the battlefield from your words to your enemy's mind. And there, he is unprepared. The herd depends on predictable patterns. When you remain silent, you break the pattern, you become unpredictable, and the unpredictable is feared. Silence, therefore, is not weakness. It is an act of aggression. It is psychological warfare. And now, let me reveal the deepest truth of all. Silence is the space in which your will to power can expand. For most people, silence is a vacuum they rush to fill. But for the powerful man, silence is his kingdom. It is the field on which he writes his destiny. Think of Zarathustra, descending from the mountains. He did not come down babbling. He spoke only when the words were worthy of him. And often, he answered with silence, because silence spoke more loudly than any word. When you speak less, your words gain weight. Each syllable becomes precious. Each sentence carries the thunder of hidden mountains. The herd speaks rivers of words, and none are remembered. The powerful man speaks a single phrase, and the world echoes with it for centuries. Ask yourself, do you wish to be a chatterer, or a creator of words that endure? But beware, spirit-free. To wield silence requires first that you endure your own company. Can you sit with yourself without distraction? Can you remain still while your mind screams with doubts and memories? Or do you reach for your phone, your music, your meaningless conversations, merely to drown out the noise of your own mind? You cannot outsmart anyone with silence until you have first outsmarted yourself, because the silent man is not merely silent in speech, he is silent inside. His thoughts do not rush about like frightened mice. His emotions do not leap at every spark. He stands within himself like a mountain, unshakable. This is why, spirit-free, silence is the true test of strength. It is a test of whether you can govern yourself, whether you can be sovereign over your instincts, whether you can look into your own abyss and remain unmoved. For those who cannot endure silence, there is only one fate: slavery to noise, slavery to opinion, slavery to the herd. I tell you this, you will never outsmart anyone so long as you remain a puppet pulled by invisible strings of emotional reaction. Cut the strings. Let your silence become a blade that severs all ties to the herd's expectations. Only then will you stand as a question mark the world cannot answer. So let me ask you now, spirit-free, who in your life are you trying to impress with your words? Whose approval are you chasing? Who would you become if you dared to speak nothing and simply be? Consider this your first act of rebellion. Choose silence. Let it become your fortress. Let it become your throne. And then, when you finally speak, let your words fall like lightning from a clear sky, for the world will listen when silence finally decides to speak. Do you feel the weight of what I am saying? This silence I demand from you is not gentle. It is not peaceful. It is a silence sharp as glass. A silence forged in suffering and transformed into dominion. And now, let us step into even more dangerous territory. For there is another reason why silence outsmarts your enemies. It forces them to reveal themselves. Listen to me well. The weaker man always needs confirmation. He pokes you, prods you, provokes you, hoping you will show your cards. He cannot stand not knowing where you stand. He needs to define you, categorize you, box you into something he can handle. So when you remain silent, you drive him into a panic. He starts to talk more. He begins to overshare. He reveals secrets he should have guarded. He becomes sloppy, emotional, exposed. In his desperation to pierce your silence, he throws words like stones into a dark well, praying for an echo that never returns. In this way, silence is not passive. It is a trap. It lures the other into revealing himself completely. I tell you, the strongest man does not rush to show his intentions. He waits. He watches. He lets the other man speak. Speak until the other's entire soul lies naked on the table. The truly cunning man wins battles without lifting his sword. He lets his enemy destroy himself through his own need to be seen and understood. You want to outsmart someone? Let him talk. Let him fill the silence with his confessions, his boasts, his hidden fears. Remain silent, and every word he utters becomes a rope by which he hangs himself. The man who speaks least knows most. But beware. Silence is not enough on its own. You must master your entire demeanor. Do you think silence works if your eyes dart nervously, if your breath quickens, if your posture shrinks as though under invisible blows? No, your body must become as silent as your lips. Your posture must proclaim, I am the measure by which you are measured. Your eyes must look through the other, as though he were an apparition already fading. Your entire presence must declare, I have no need of you. you are not my equal. This is not arrogance, it is sovereignty. It is the refusal to allow the opinions of others to enter your fortress. The herd cannot bear this kind of presence. They will call it cruelty. They will call it narcissism. They will accuse you of being cold. Let them. The judgment of the herd is the confession of their own impotence. Because here is the truth. To be silent is to be alone, and most people fear nothing more than being alone with themselves. They seek noise because noise distracts them from the abyss they carry inside. They chatter about politics, gossip, religion, sports, money, anything to avoid facing the terrifying question, who am I when no one is watching? But you, spirit-free, must learn to be alone and not merely endure it, but love it. You must love the silence as the forge in which you create yourself anew. Understand this, all true transformation begins in silence. No man ever became great, surrounded by noise. No empire was built on ceaseless chatter. Greatness grows in solitude, in secrecy, in the silence of midnight hours, when the rest of the world sleeps. It is in silence that you meet your demons and slay them. It is in silence that you listen for the faint whisper of your true will. It is in silence that you discover what you truly desire and what you are willing to sacrifice for it. To outsmart someone without words, you must become someone whose entire existence is deliberate, whose every move carries intention, whose silence is alive with unseen force. Let me ask you, spirit-free, have you ever noticed how a lion does not announce its presence? How it moves through the grass without a sound? The lion is not silent because it is afraid. It is silent because it is powerful, because it knows it can strike whenever it chooses. That is the silence I demand of you. Your silence must carry the promise of violence even if you never lift a finger. Your silence must suggest that behind your stillness lies an untamed force. This is why the herd fears the silent man, because they sense that he is a lion among sheep. They sense that he sees them for what they are, frail, predictable, unworthy of explanation. Do you see it now? Silence is not emptiness. It is charged with meaning. It radiates power. It says, I know more than I am revealing, and you shall not pry it from me. It is the highest form of cunning. Because let me tell you another secret. The less people know about you, the more they invent. And the more they invent, the more they reveal about themselves. Your silence becomes a canvas onto which they project their hopes, their fears, their insecurities. They reveal themselves by how they interpret your silence. Some will think you are arrogant. Others will think you are wise. Some will fear you. Others will envy you. All will reveal themselves, and in knowing them, you outsmart them. So, spirit free, I ask you, who are the people you wish to defeat? Who are the ones whose power over you still makes your heart pound? Whose words still echo in your mind long after they have fallen silent? Imagine them now. See their faces. Feel your old fear rising like a phantom, and then, in your mind, answer them with silence. Watch them grow uncomfortable, restless, desperate to drag words from your lips. See how your silence robs them of their weapons. This is not a fantasy. It is the beginning of your liberation. But remember, this path demands sacrifice. You will sacrifice the comfort of being liked. You will sacrifice the cheap intoxication of applause. You will sacrifice the illusion that belonging to the herd equals safety. You will become a wanderer, a solitary star in a vast sky. And yet, I promise you this, there is no freedom like the freedom of the man who answers to no one. So I ask you, spirit free, are you prepared to become silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you know that your silence is the loudest statement you can ever make? Then walk with me further, into the dark corridors where power whispers, secrets only the silent can hear. Listen to me closely, spirit free. We are approaching the summit, where the air grows thin and the truth burns like ice. I must confront you with questions, questions you have avoided all your life, because it is in questioning that I force you to see yourself stripped of illusions. Let me ask you, why do you wish to outsmart others? Is it because you secretly feel inferior? Because you want revenge for wounds they inflicted on your pride? Or is it because you have glimpsed something higher within yourself, a spark of the overman that refuses to bow to the petty games of the herd? Have you truly learned to remain silent because you are strong, or merely because you were afraid to speak? Does your silence come from contempt for the trivial chatter of others, or from terror that your words might reveal how little you truly know? Can you sit across from your greatest enemy, meet his eyes, and let silence stand between you without your pulse quickening in fear? Or do you fear that in the silence, he might see the trembling child that still hides inside you? Why do you fill every silence with explanations, apologies, or laughter? Why do you rush to say I'm sorry, even when you have done nothing wrong? Why do you feel compelled to justify every decision, every feeling, every instinct, as if the world has the right to put you on trial? Who told you that your worth depends on being understood, agreed with, approved? Why do you believe that others have a claim to your inner world? Who taught you to think you owe them your truths? Look me in the eyes, spirit free. Whom do you fear disappointing? Whose respect do you crave so desperately that you would betray your own silence just to win their fleeting approval? Why do you imagine that speaking always equals strength and silence equals weakness? Who told you that the loudest voice always wins, when history belongs to those whose silence thundered across centuries? These are not idle questions. They are a hammer. Each one shatters a piece of the illusion you call your identity. I want you to see yourself as you truly are, because until you know why you speak, you cannot master the art of silence. The silent man is not silent because he represses himself. He is silent because he is sovereign. He has interrogated his own soul. He knows his reasons. He has chosen which truths remain hidden and which shall blaze forth like lightning. I ask you again, do you wish to outsmart others because you seek dominion, or because you seek to protect your fragile ego from humiliation? Be honest, for there is no power without ruthless honesty. Let me tell you what I have seen. Spirit free. Many who strive for cunning are merely cowards in disguise. They retreat into silence not as warriors but as fugitives. They call themselves mysterious, but their silence is only a shield for their emptiness. Do not be like them. True silence comes from a fullness within, from an abundance of power that does not need to broadcast itself. There is no greater cunning than the man who remains silent because he knows he could speak and crush you but chooses not to. That is true superiority. He lets you dance around him, exhausting yourself with guesses, accusations, and questions, and all the while he stands unmoved, as though he were a god hidden behind a veil. And now, let me tell you why your silence is more terrifying than your words. When you speak, people know your boundaries. They hear the edge of your knowledge, the limits of your certainty, the shape of your convictions. But your silence is infinite. It suggests depths they cannot fathom, knowledge they cannot measure, power they cannot predict. The herd despises and fears what it cannot categorize. They will invent 1,000 theories to explain your silence. They will call you cruel, calculating, dangerous. Let them. Their confusion is proof of your victory. Let them fill the silence with their noise. Let them reveal themselves while you remain concealed. That is the dance of power. I want you to remember this forever. The man who cannot endure silence cannot endure freedom, because silence is freedom. It is the refusal to perform, to please, to be predictable. It is the rejection of slavery to the herd's expectations. To outsmart someone without speaking is not merely to defeat him, it is to stand beyond him, to exist in a dimension he cannot enter. And the true cunning of silence is this: it is the silence of one who is free. So I challenge you, spirit free. Are you ready to become the man who walks into a room and speaks nothing, yet becomes the center around which every conversation orbits? Are you ready to let people call you arrogant, mysterious, dangerous, because they cannot see inside you? Are you ready to lose the comfort of being known, so that you might gain the power of being unknowable? Are you ready to live as a question that no one can answer? Or will you return to the herd, to their comfortable chatter, their shallow applause, their chains of approval and belonging? I will not decide for you, but I will tell you this: the man who chooses silence is the man who has chosen to belong to himself, and to no one else. He has become the master of his own fate, the author of his own story. And that, spirit free, is the ultimate cunning, to live in such a way that the world can never claim to know you, predict you, control you. So now we stand at the summit. Look around you. The air here is sharp, like knives. Only those who have endured the cold of loneliness can breathe it without choking. This is the realm of those who belong to themselves. Spirit free. There is one last truth I must reveal to you, one last hammer blow to the walls of your old self. Silence, true silence, is not merely a tactic. It is the essence of a new kind of human being. The herd imagines that to be clever is to argue, to prove oneself right, to gather victories in the court of public opinion. But I tell you, This is the cleverness of slaves. The truly cunning man is not concerned with winning debates. He is concerned with winning freedom, and freedom does not require permission. He does not speak, because he knows that words are traps, that every explanation, every confession, every justification becomes a chain that binds him to the judgment of others. He is silent because he no longer wishes to play the game of the herd. He has become something else entirely. Spirit free. Imagine this. You walk into a room filled with noise, laughter, opinions clashing like swords. You say nothing. You look around as though the entire spectacle were a performance for your amusement, and one by one, eyes begin to turn toward you, not because you have spoken, but because your silence demands attention. It is not arrogance, it is gravity. And suddenly, they begin to wonder, who is he? What is he thinking? Why does he not speak? Your silence becomes a riddle. Some will admire you, others will resent you, but all will notice you, because the man who does not speak cannot be dismissed, he cannot be refuted, he cannot be humiliated, he cannot be captured in words, because he has chosen to exist outside the prison of words. This is why silence outsmarts all enemies, because it makes you an enigma, and there is nothing the herd hates more than what it cannot explain. But let me be mercilessly clear. This path is not for cowards. It demands that you accept being misunderstood, that you accept loneliness, that you accept being hated by those who cannot endure your refusal to be defined. It demands that you let go of the childish craving to be liked by everyone, because the more you speak, the more you give others the power to categorize you, to reduce you, to confine you within their shallow judgments. The silent man denies them this pleasure. He becomes the blank page upon which they write their own insecurities. He is the mirror that reflects not himself but the truth about those who stand before him. And so, spirit free, I ask you this final question. Are you ready to become a mirror so polished that others cannot look at you without confronting themselves? Are you ready to wield silence like a blade that cuts through illusions and reveals the naked truth of those around you? Are you prepared for the solitude that comes from refusing to dance to the music of the herd? Are you ready to become not merely silent but unknowable? Because that is the ultimate cunning. To live in such a way that the herd can neither predict you, nor control you, nor destroy you. And now, I must tell you the most important truth of all. Your silence is not merely about outsmarting others, it is about creating space to build yourself into something higher. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop pouring out your soul for the cheap currency of approval, you reclaim all that energy, you reclaim the divine fire that belongs to you alone, you redirect it into your work, your creation, your vision, because the overman is not silent merely to outwit his enemies. He is silent because he is busy creating new worlds. He has no time to gossip, no time for petty arguments, no time to waste proving himself to people whose opinions are worthless. He is forging himself like a sword. He is sculpting his destiny. In solitude, he is building the fortress of his own soul, and every moment of silence is another brick in that fortress. This is why, spirit free, your silence must not be empty. It must be filled with purpose. Let them wonder what you are thinking. Let them fear what you might do next. Let them invent stories about you. While they talk, you build. While they gossip, you grow stronger. While they chatter, you prepare your next strike. And one day you will reveal yourself not with words, but with the magnitude of what you have become. That, spirit free, is the ultimate way to outsmart the world, to become so powerful, so silent, so utterly sovereign, that no one dares to challenge you, not because you have silenced them with arguments, but because you have become untouchable, because your silence speaks louder than any speech, because you have become the lion in the tall grass, seen by none, feared by all. So I say to you, speak only when your words can shake mountains. Otherwise, let silence reign, for silence, wielded by a sovereign spirit, is the purest expression of the will to power. It is the domain of those who have transcended the herd and now walk the earth as creators of new values. Now go, spirit free. Let your silence become the roar of your future greatness. So we stand here, you and I, at the end of this climb. And yet it is not an end. It is merely the edge of a new abyss into which you must leap. You came to me wanting to know how to outsmart others without speaking a word, and I have shown you that silence is more than a strategy. It is a declaration of sovereignty. But now, you must understand, the greatest cunning is not merely to outwit others, but to free yourself from the need to outwit them at all, for the herd remains trapped in a game of endless reaction. They speak to defend themselves, to justify themselves, to advertise themselves, to plead for love. They live under the whip of the question, what do others think of me? But you, spirit free, must live under another question entirely. What do I think of myself? This is the question of the sovereign. This is the question of the creator, because the man who belongs to himself is beyond all games of cleverness. He does not care if the world misunderstands him. He does not care if his silence inspires fear, envy, or worship. He cares only for this, to create himself in the shape of his own highest vision. Understand me, all the cunning of silence, all the power of mystery, all the victories you may win by outsmarting others. These are merely tools. They are means to one supreme end, to become the overman. The one who has forged himself beyond good and evil, the one who has declared his own values, the one who stands above the crowd, not as a tyrant, but as a star blazing in a sky all his own. When you wield silence, you protect your energy. When you wield silence, you deny the herd access to your inner world. When you wield silence, you gather your forces for the task of becoming who you truly are. So let me leave you with one final command. Let your silence be not the silence of fear, nor of secrecy, nor of manipulation, but the silence of the Creator at work. Let it be the silence of the sculptor chiseling his masterpiece behind locked doors. Let it be the silence of the philosopher, pacing alone under stars, forging new truths with each step. Let it be the silence of the lion in the grass, patient, unseen, magnificent, because when you speak again, when your silence finally breaks, let it be like thunder crashing from a clear sky. Let it be the voice of new values, new visions, new worlds. That, spirit free, is how you outsmart not only those around you, but the entire world. And so, I leave you with this challenge. In the comments below, tell me, not with noise, not with chatter, but with the clarity of one who has glimpsed his own power, what will your silence create? Until then, remain silent, remain sovereign, and let the world tremble at the mystery of who you are becoming. Farewell, spirit free. The abyss awaits your leap. Thus spoke Nietzsche.